here. Most of you know I'm Joe, as he said, and I'm 29 years old. I've shared my testimony with this church many, many times, but just a brief recap for those of you that aren't familiar with me or maybe haven't been here for the new time guests. I was a struggling drug addict. At the age of 12, I began doing drugs. It started with just smoking cigarettes, but by the time I was 18, I took my first Oxycontin pill. I became a heroin junkie after that because the Oxycontins weren't enough, and it got to a point where I eventually was shooting up on a daily basis. I didn't know the Lord. I was doing electrical work, commercial electrical work, so I'd be passing out on the way to work. I would be passing out while eating my food. I would wake up with my car totaled. I would pass out on the interstate and bounce off the median and then just take off like nothing had happened. I'd get pulled over on the way to work at 6 a.m. in the morning because someone had called in and said that they thought I was drunk, and the police would get to the car and I'd be fine then because I would snap out of it. But these drugs had completely taken over my life. My friends didn't want anything to do with me. They said, when you're on those pills, even some of my best friends said, you know what, when you're on those pills, just don't come around me. I was angry, and my anger, it came out even more when I was on the drugs. I was stealing from my family members. That's why it's a blessing, even my brother being here today. But in 2007, I had begun getting arrested. In 2007, I had been to jail multiple times, and God finally encountered me, like Pastor Wendell said with him. I was in jail, and there was another drug addict, another drug dealer in there. And God used that drug dealer to lead me to the Lord and to begin working in my life. And I would go out and I'd try to tell people about Jesus. I had really been saved. I had never known the Lord before that, never wanted to serve God, never wanted to go to church. But God radically saved me in 2007. And I would try to go out and tell people about Jesus, but I didn't know what I was doing. I had no training, no leadership like this. And I ended up falling back into the drugs. And so after coming to Florida to get away from Indiana and the drugs, and finding more drugs down here, I found Pastor Wendell sharing his testimony at Englewood Church, sharing his testimony, and he had the men up on stage just like we are today at Fellowship Church here in Englewood. And I would sit in the back of the pews or the chairs. I'd come into church and cry out to God to set me free from the drugs because he had done it before. And finally I saw the answer, and within a couple months I got to my rock bottom. And Pastor Wendell accepted me into the program. First said, during the interview process, we have a long interview process, and one of the men that was interviewing me with him said, I don't know, I think you may be too angry of a man. I don't know if we can take you in here. You seem very, very angry. And when you have a close setting like this with men that are around each other 24 hours a day, if you have an anger problem, it can cause a lot of problems. You can't just run from your problems. But they took me in, and they began discipling me, and I left the program multiple times because I didn't want to die to myself. But since coming back, God had his way of getting me back here. Since coming back, I've learned that God's called me to Loving Hands full time. As Pastor Wendell now said, he's raising me up to take his position. I'm now the program director, and I'm discipling these men on a daily basis. God took me, a hopeless heroin junkie. I'm telling you, my family, as much as they wanted to be around me, I know inside they really didn't want to be around me because I was miserable. I was an angry man. I would steal. I didn't think about anything but the drugs. Friends didn't want to be around me. The world just wanted to kind of throw me away. And yet God has transformed my life. Since surrendering my life to Christ, he has begun using me to further his kingdom. And see, the thing with Garrett, as I surrendered my life, God began working. I saw it begin working after I really got to the point of surrender. Not to salvation. I'd gotten saved. But after I began that process of living my life a living sacrifice for God and really surrendering all to God, I seen God begin working in my life. He promoted me to resident director, and it's something I never would have thought I'd been. Someone leading these men on a daily basis in godly things, yet I was out there destroying the world. And God began doing different things. I started attending school. I had graduated from high school, but I had no real college, but yet God was taking me through Bible school, began taking me through them processes. And then I saw other things start to happen. I began getting opportunities to preach in some churches that we are local, some of the local churches in Florida that we visit, some of them even with more popular churches, yet we're letting me get in their pulpits and share the gospel with people. Share the life-giving message of the cross and of Jesus Christ with people. I was out there killing people, and God began using me to save other people. And since then, as he said, now I've received my credentials. I used to joke around when my brother and mom would come to visit from Indiana and say, you know, why don't you guys just come to Florida? Come serve God. And they just, he snapped at me one day and said, you know, he just snapped at me, and I learned real quick that I was doing it the wrong way, because we get saved and these men get on fire for Jesus and they want to go tell their family how to live the Christian life and how to do it. But yet, years later, God has brought my brother all the way down here. Could be out there. He's got his master's degree now. Could be making a lot of money. And Garrett is now serving the Lord with me here at Loving Hands Ministries. So that's just a testimony of when you surrender your life, how God begins bringing other things. I had an opportunity to go on a mission trip. And Gus will tell you a little bit more about that. Pastor Dan and your church, you helped support that. And many souls were brought into the kingdom. I received a message last night and received another message this morning of multiple people, different people that we witnessed to, that still, a month later, are like, you guys impacted my lives. And see, I've now received my passport. I've got approved for a 10-year visa, so now I'll be going to India in January. And God is just taking a hopeless heroin junkie. If you surrender your life to Christ, you don't know what God will do with you.